start it. Alright, so the one I want to start with is our first button. Display a list of the staff numbers that ordered from Lifebuoy. So when we looked at our tables, you'll see what we have to do is we actually had to go look for all the Lifebuoy suppliers. We had to go through this Ppe table looking for supplier, and every time we get a Lifebuoy we have to look what is the code, and then we had to go to the requisition table looking for the PPE code with that particular code, and then display the staff number of that person that had that code. Right, so let's do it. We just do it little bits, just pieces at a time, and then you'll see it builds up, and then it's actually relatively easy. So our first step was go through this table, look at the supplier field, and we look for Lifebuoy. One key thing to remember, the B is a small letter. So what you can also do is you can just copy that. It is case sensitive. We can actually make that it's not case sensitive. We can maybe do that in any case as well. Alright, so our step one was to do that. So we want to go through the PPE table, looking at the supplier field, looking for Lifebuoy. Alright, so remember now the things we do when we want to go through a table. What's the first thing we do?
Initialize it dot first.
Yeah, so it's our table PPE dot first. So we have to go to the first record, and then what do we need?
While loop.
A while loop, or we can do the repeat. For some reason I love the repeat now, just because it looks a bit better. So we can repeat until our TBL PPE is at the end of the file. So, and then what's the third piece we need to do with our conditional loop?
Next.
Next. So our table PPE, we have to next. So remember, that's our three pieces. Always your table first, then you can use it in the loop until you're at the end of the file, but then we need our table PPE next. And remember, the first piece we wanted to do, we want to look in the supplier field, and we wanted to look for Lifebuoy. So we want to do comparisons. What do we need for comparisons? If statement.
If statement.
Yes, well done. So if our table PPE, and then the field we're looking at is the supplier field, if that field was equal to, and we looked for specifically Lifebuoy. If you were worried about spelling and whatever, you could have just gone either uppercase or lowercase this side and that side. But I mean, it's a fixed value, so we can just type it in right the first time, and then we know it's fine. For this, we're going to need a begin and end, because now we did our first piece. We remember I said when we looked at our problem, step one was go through this table, look for when the supplier is equal to Lifebuoy. So going through the table, we have to first until we enter the table, and next every time. And then we specifically look where the supplier field has got Lifebuoy in it. That was our first step. Then we said we want to take the code from here and go look for this code inside this table by PPE code. So that's our next step. So we need to use the code from table PPE and go look for it in table requisition by PPE code. So this particular one, as soon as we find Lifebuoy, we want to take his number and go look for it. So maybe to make our life a bit easier, let's create a variable for ourselves, and this is our PPE code. I'm just going to say PPE CO, and you can decide if you want it string or int. It's a number, so let's keep it integer. So our PPE code that we are looking for is from the table PPE, and we're looking for the field named code. So as soon as we find Lifebuoy in the supplier field, we take the code of that one and we put it inside this variable. So we went and we found the Lifebuoy here. Then we looked at the code and we put that into a variable. So now our next step is we want to go through this table looking for that code that we just saved inside PPE code field. So when we want to go through a table, what do we need?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, so what we want to do here, we've got the code now. So we want to now, we saved this code. So we want to now go through this table looking for that code we saved inside PPE code. So whenever we go through a table, so I want to check, is this code 1? Is that code 1? If that's code 1, if that one's code. So I want to go through this whole table record by record looking for that specific code I just saved. So what do we need for that?
You'll need another loop.
Yes. So now we need to do everything again, but remember we work with the other table. And we're inside this if. So now we have to go look for that code. Let's put it in comments just so that you understand. Look for that code. So now we want to go through our table requisition. And remember our 3 pieces. Our first piece is dot first. Then we can do our repeat until our table requisition is at the end of the file. And on the inside we need our table requisition dot next. Can you see that this piece now we're doing inside here, because as soon as we found Lifebuoy we wanted to keep the code, and now we want to go look for that code. So we have to go to table requisition first, then we want until we're at the end of that table, and we want to go to the next one every time we do this. So now we need to do a comparison again. Remember, we're looking for this code inside the PPE code field. So what do I need? Everybody still there?
You'll need your if statement.
Okay.
Well, you'll need your... Okay, you gotta have to talk next, so you'll need your if statement.
Yeah, we need our if statement. And we want to look in our table requisition in the field PPE code. In the field PPE code. And we wanted to see if that one is equal to this one we just saved. So now, so we looked for Lifebuoy. As soon as we got Lifebuoy, we took that code, saved it there. Then we went through the other table and we looked in the PPE code field of that one until we found the one we were looking for. And once we found that one, so we went here, looked for Lifebuoy. Once we found Lifebuoy, took the code, went to the side, went through looking for the code. Once we found the code, what did the question want us to do? To just display the staff number. So now in our array display .lines.add, we can now just go display our table requisition, but the specific field we want to display is the staff number one. But remember, staff number is an integer. So we'll just probably int to string that field. For this if, I didn't put a begin because I've only got the one line, so I don't need an end. And let's see what this does. Remember last time we looked before we clicked the button. Let's quickly check. So Lifeboy was code 1, 2 and 3. So when we go here, we're going to need to see staff number 22, staff 32, staff 100, 100 and 100. So 3 hundreds and then a 22 and a 32. Let's see. There's our 300s and a 22 and a 32. Okay, so for our next one, we want to display a list of order dates when Sanitizers was ordered. So let's quickly go look. With majority of these things, you just need to understand your question first before you try to attempt it in code. So display a list of order dates. So we want the order dates when Sanitizers was ordered. Then we see we can't see Sanitizers here. So if we go to requisition to PPE, so there's sanitizer is in the product field. So we want to look for a sanitizer, all the sanitizers, and then we want a list of the order dates of when they were ordered. So do you understand? We sort of need to do the same thing again. We want to go through this table looking for sanitizer. Once we found the sanitizer, we have to look for the code. And then when we've got the code, we can go to this table looking for that particular code and then displaying the dates just from those codes. So let's go try to do this. So step 1. Step 1 was we want to go look for sanitizer. So it's in our PPE table. Yeah, PPE table. Alright, so what's the first thing we need to do? Our table PPE dot first. And then we want to go through the whole table, so what do we need?
A loop, sir.
Your while loop.
Yes. So we need a conditional loop. I'm going to do the while one for this. If you want to stick with the repeat, that's 100% fine. I think I'll do a while here just so that we can see how the while would have worked in this case. So while we are not at our table PPE end of file, we want to do begin. And what do we want to do right at the end? Table PPE dot next. So remember, always those three friends work together. When you want to use it as a condition, you have to initialize it first and then you can change it on the inside. Alright, so that will take us through this table. Okay, so what are we looking for? We're looking for in product, we're looking for sanitizer. So we need to do a comparison, and for comparison we know we need a if statement. So if our table PPE, the field we're looking at is, what was it? Product. Then that will be equal to, and we're looking for sanitizer. Okay, we're using fixed values again. We could have actually just asked the user as well, and he could have given us the specific products he wants to look for. So if the user typed this in and we thought that the capital letters might be a problem, then what you could have done is you could have just gone and said uppercase here. So we uppercase our table product, and we can just compare that to the uppercase of whatever the user typed in, or sanitize in this case. So now it's not case sensitive. Now it doesn't matter how they type it, it's fine. So if the uppercase of that is equal to the uppercase of that, then begin. So we're going through this now and we're looking for sanitizer. Once we found sanitizer, again same thing, now we want to keep the code. So let's create a variable again. Let's call it code, integer. So the code variable must get now our table PPE, and the field we want to keep is just called code, I think. Yeah. So we're keeping the code field. So now we saw, here's a sanitizer, we got this number, and we put this number into this variable. So now we want to go to this table, in the PPE field, so we want to go through each of them, looking for the code we just saved. And once we got the code, we want to display the order date. So what do we need to do? Alright, so now we want to go look for that code in the other table. So now we have to do the same thing. We want to go through the whole table. So we have to do our table requisition dot first. We want to go through the whole thing, so we need our while loop. While we not our table requisition at the end of the file, we want to go look for it. And right at the end, we must remember we just want to take our table requisition dot next. So this is our looping pieces. So we want to start at the first one, then we can use it as a condition, then we must just change it on the inside. So now that goes through. So what we want to do is we want to look for this code we saved inside PPE code. So if our table PPE, no, it's table requisition. If our table requisition, but the field we're looking at is PPE code, if that is equal to our code we just saved, then we want to, in our display .lines.add, we want to add our table requisition, and the field we want to display is our order date field. Okay, let's quickly see if this works. Oof. Oh, I misspelled it. So already when you see the error, they say field or either date not found. So this field was not found. That meant most probably a spelling mistake, and I put an extra E in there. Okay, let's try it now. And then 27 and the 24th. Let's quickly see. So sanitizers was code number 1, code number 6, and code number 8. 1, 6, and 8. So 8, so 24th, 1, 27th, and 6 is not there. Yeah, so that's those 2 days. So display a list of contact numbers of all orders that was not completed. So then we quickly look at this. So we've got our completed, okay, so we want to see the contact number. So we want to see this of all orders that was not completed. So when the completed is unticked, we want to go and display the contact number. So step 1 is go look for all the completed ones that's not ticked. Alright, so let's go do that. So what's the first thing we need to do?
You need to
Table
initialize your
first.
table. Oh,
Yeah, well done.
APO table first.
Yeah, from our, we want to start with our table requisition. So our table requisition dot first. Okay, what's next up?
your while loop.
Okay, so while loop, I'm gonna go back to my repeat. I love my repeat one. So repeat until my table requisition is at the end of his file. And what do we have to do right at the end on the inside?
Dot next.
Yes. So our table recognition, we want to dot next. So can you see, we always have this set of stuff to do. Always dot first, always your loop, always dot next. Now we want to look for something. What do we look for? We want to look for the records where the completed field is unticked. So what data type are we going to look for here? What data type is these things in Delphi basically?
Aren't they Boolean?
Yes, they're Boolean. Well done. For
What's our beat?
I see, even typed it. So in Delphi, in Access, this is a yes/no field, but in Delphi we're going to use Boolean. So we can just go. We want to compare again. So if our table requisition and the field we're looking at is our completed. Is it completed? I think completed field. Yeah. If that is equal to what?
False.
Oh.
Yeah, well done.
So do you have to use repeat or can you use while not table dot eof?
Yes, 100%. So, okay, you missed that part. The first one that I did, I used the repeat loops, and then the second one I did the while loops. So, repeat loops are fine, while loops are fine. Even if you want to go the for loop route, that's also fine. Personally, it just feels to me the repeat loop just feels a bit faster, because I don't have to have a not and a begin and an end. So it feels to me a bit faster. But yeah, whichever one you like is 100% fine. Same thing.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Cool. Alright, so we've got our loop to loop through everything, and then we're looking for our completed fields, which is uncompleted ones, the false ones. So once we found a field that is not completed, we want to remember the field that we use is our Ppe code one. The Ppe code links with this one. So we want to just keep this code. So let's just create a variable for us. Let's also call it code. It's an integer. So our code, just from our table requisition, the field we want to look for is our Ppe code field. So now we just keep that code. So we looked for, as soon as we find uncompleted, we're keeping this code. So what's our next step?
So is it okay if instead of storing it in a variable, what I did is I just immediately made,
Used it.
if it is false, I did a repeat loop, and if it wasn't false, I just didn't do a loop.
Oh, yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, that's also good. Yeah.
Alright, thank you, sir.
Alright, so, okay, as we can hear from Jock, also now he went loop then. So we need our loop again, because now what we want to do is, we want to loop through the Ppe table. So, for our loop, remember we've got our three pieces. So our table Ppe, we want to start at the first record. We want to, let's use a while just because we can. While we not about table Ppe's end of file, we want to do some things. and at the end we want to take our table PPE, just go to the next one. So there we do our normal loop through the next loop. So what do we want to do inside here now? So we got this code, we went to this table and we're looping through it. So what do we want to do now?
You want to run a
display.
if statement.
So we want to have our if statement, and if the code we're looking for is equal to our table PPE, and the field we want to compare it to is our code field. So once we found that code, what was the question?
I think, don't you display the contact numbers? Yeah.
Contact numbers, yeah. Right, so contact number. So then we just go our redisplay dot lines dot add, and we want to display our table PPE, and the field we want to display is contact number. Let's quickly see this. Wait, there's a problem there. Semicolon. There we go. Quickly tell me one thing while we're doing this. Little bit of theory. In this case, what type of error is this?
Syntax.
Yes, well done. This is a syntax error. So it prevents the program from running. If I do this, what type of error will now happen?
Logic.
Isn't that garbage in, garbage out?
Not either one.
It's logic.
So let's quickly see. Let me show you. So if you run this,
Also,
and well time Vumila is correct. See if I click this now. See, crash, program crash. So this is a runtime error, because it's not syntax, because you can actually play the program, but once this button is clicked it actually crashes the program. So because of that, this is a runtime error.
so is the logic errors is purely algorithmic error.
So if I did quantity here, what type of error will this be now?
Logic.
This is the logic one. For the reason, we want to display the contact numbers of all orders that's not completed. So it works fine, but that is not the contact numbers. So the output is wrong, but it works fine. So this is a logical error. So there's no actual, nothing crashes, there's no errors there, the output's just wrong, it's the wrong thing that's happening. So that's a different one. So if it actually prevents you from running, it's our syntax error. If it runs but there's a mistake in, and as soon as you click it, it crashes, that's a runtime error. And if it works fine, but it just displays the wrong stuff, then it's our logical error.